favorite scary movie.
Marlon Brando, Val Kilmer, David Thewlis. The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Really, the most interesting part about the movie we're going to be talking about, that being the island of Dr. Moreau, is everything that happened behind the scenes. Because, you know, Jordan Anderson and Austin Pez Howell of the Movie Hero Network talk about this movies leading to a stressful situation. The movie was a stressful situation, but behind the camera. It was honestly more entertaining learning about this movie behind the scenes than anything in the actual movie itself, because the movie's just a whole lot of nothing, Jacob Collins. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, I like this movie as a kid, and so because that's the idea of it is it's kind of like Jurassic Park in a way where it's like a man tries to play God and it bites him in the ass. And he's basically trying to be like this Jesus or God complex where he's trying to build the ultimate, thing. The only thing is it kind of becomes like, and I like the idea of the story of like, okay, a guy gets washed away and then of course he finds this island and everything. And then of course Montgomery is basically like, the devil of the situation where he basically sees them as, okay, they're basically animals and we should treat them like garbage and dogs. We should not, and Moreau sees them as, oh, they're going to be the next stage in evolution. This is literally going to be how we can progress in society. And so, and I think, and I just like that idea of it. But then this movie, sometimes you feel like they're trying to go with that message, but then sometimes you feel like they're just doing nothing. They're just sitting around talking in costumes.
Exactly. And then just so everyone is aware, if if you hear the Island of Dr. Moreau and you think to yourself, wait, isn't it that one movie? You probably have never seen it, but it's one of those infamous movies like Apocalypse Now, where it's like the whole production was just so involved and so bad for everyone involved that it's like it almost feels like everyone should have taken a vow of silence, like this never happened. But they were in for a lot of money on it, and so they lost a lot of money on it. Someone had the bright idea to hire both Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer for this. It went through two directors, one of whom was fired but never left the island and instead was just like trying to
Went
sneakily
rogue,
put in suggestions on his own behalf.
dressed like
Really,
one of the creatures.
e- e- ex- exactly. Really, this is a sort of kind of remake of Island of Lost Souls, which is a much better version of this story, which is The Island of Dr. Moreau, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. This is about Dr. Moreau, who creates a whole bunch of hellish creatures. And in this movie, our main character is named Douglas, played by David Thewlis, aka Remus Lupin from the Harry Potter series. And he's trying to figure out a way off the island while dodging Dr. Moreau, played by Marlon Brando, who I swear to God looks like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man come to life, and Val Kilmer, who I don't know if he is not trying or trying way too hard. It's really hard to describe. You just have to see it.
Which, oh my God. First off, I mean, have you Marlon Brando in the scene where he's all in white makeup and everything? I'm just like, that's not in the book at all. That's just shit that happens. I suspect the reason why they did that was because Marlon Brando didn't want to shoot. Because if you watch the documentary Val, the Val Kilmer documentary Val, they literally Marlo like there's one scene where there's like they said that's not Marlo Brando. They said and then they're him and the guy that plays and Edward Douglas, David Twist. Him and they are talking and they go, "Hey, what's your name?" And he goes, "Norm." And he said, "Today," and he looks at and then Val Kilmer looks at the camera and goes, "Today, Marlon Brando will be played by Norm." And so it's like, it's like, well, what you could tell, there's a couple of scenes like that's not Marlon Brando. That's not Marlon Brando. Well, but it's just his voice. But like, and I think what it is Marlon Brando is known to be a lazy actor.
Hmm.
Like when he's there and he's like committed, he's like spot on. But then I mean, it's famously known he is a lazy actor. Like he literally like shot Superman like, literally, like, was just off of cue cards, for Jarrell. And it's like, this guy, I don't know what's up. I think he made a bunch of movies and said, you know what, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna do it as lazy as I possible. I will give you 110%, but just let me be comfortable and let me do whatever. It's like, it's
You
like
know,
he can do great.
rather infamously, Christopher Reeve, who met him on Superman, said, "Yeah, like he was not a nice guy." I mean, imagine what you would have to do to make Christopher Reeve mad. Like that takes some skill. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Which, I mean, just like Marlon Brando, which, you know what, Marlon Brando, there's a scene, but which there is so many, like he actually has, if you watch the documentary Val, there's a scene where he's talking to Marlon Brando and he goes, Marlon, tell me about your time. Tell me about, some stuff. Tell me about some stories about, your time making Apocalypse Now or this and that. And then Marlon Brando is laying in like a little rocking chair going, or like a little, like, what's the things you push, like a porch swing, going, push me. And then Falconer pushes him on the swing and he just goes on, goes to sleep. And I'm just like you could tell Marlon Brando didn't give a shit, you know, just like, which, I mean, this whole production was troubled. I mean, they had originally Richard Stanley was going to direct because he had a good pitch and he literally got A-list talent. He got Bruce Willis and James Woods attached to the project. Bruce Willis was going to play Edward Douglas, but then Bruce Willis was getting divorced, and I suspect that he did not like the script. I suspect, but he said his divorce, which a lot of people say that's kind of convenient because his divorce didn't even happen until the summer by the time the movie was done. But still, Bruce Willis, like, said, "Oh, I'm getting divorced," so he left the project. And then James Woods departed for unknown reasons. And then, of course, Val Kilmer was going to play Edward Douglas, but then Val Kilmer said, you only can get me for 40 days." So they were like, "Okay, you're going to be Montgomery." And then they hired, because originally some other guy was going to be Montgomery, but then he could. But when Val Kilmer took that role, they were like, "All right, we got to find Edward Douglas." And then they found David Thewels. And can you just imagine, like, you get Marlon Brando, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's Marlon Brando." And then it's like, he just doesn't give a shit. It's like,
No, like, and I want to give a little bit of respect to Marlon Brando. When he was on, he was really good. I mean, The Godfather, for example, Apocalypse Now, like Collins just brought up, even in his earlier work, like uh, the On the Waterfront, the Elia Kazan movie, he's really good in that. Like, I could have been a contender, I could have had class. He was good in that. But here, he just clearly just did not care. And it's not like you don't need to have seen a ton of movies to just know in the back of your mind that this man is just switched off. And you can just tell, like, there's clearly some level of effort put forth into this. I think the biggest compliment I can give to this movie is the Stan Winston creature effects. Like seeing these, and you're never going to match the brutality of Island of Lost Souls. Like seeing the one dude with the goat's feet. Whoa, they got away with that in the 30s, folks. But Stan Winston did as good a job as you could ever ask for with the effects here. But everyone else is just either checked out or is like trying to put into something that just had no hope. And I think
yeah.
that's the best thing I can just say about it.
I will say about the story itself, I do enjoy part of the, like, I like the idea of, is like, like why I said Dr. Monroe truly wants to help these creatures. And like, it's like, in Jurassic Park, how this is, you try to play God and nature, you try to control nature, but sometimes nature always has a way of, so. And so I think that's the kind of idea this is like one thing is, I love like Montgomery in the movie. I just love how Montgomery literally, like, the first 10 minutes of the movie, you find these people killing each other, trying to, like, for the last drink of water. And then and obviously, unshockingly, the skinniest guy that's like less violent wins. And then, like, Montgomery finds him on a ship, and Montgomery is, by the way, not an animal. Like, he's not, like, he's a human being.
Hmm.
I think what it is, though, like, from the story, from what I've read, like, the idea of it is like Montgomery wants to be like, like, he wants to be able to outlive. Like, he has that God complex that Moreau doesn't. He has, but he doesn't have. Like, Moreau really just wants to be a creator. He doesn't want to have but he kind of has a little bit of a God complex, but he doesn't see it that way. He says, "I'm a creator." Versus Montgomery, who's like, "We should rule over these creatures," Montgomery's like, we should roll over these creatures. They're literally, he says, literally, we could torture them, we could kill them, we could do whatever the fuck we want. They're creatures, you know? And I like that aspect. Like, for instance, like literally Montgomery, literally, whenever like the thing that made me laugh whenever he finds they find him hiding with the animals, and Montgomery just goes up to him and finds him quickly and pulls a pistol up to Edward's head. He puts a pistol in his head, and then Moreau goes, "Give him the gun." He goes, "What?" Like he goes, "What?" And then when he gives him the gun, he goes and takes off running across the field and hides behind the car. I thought that was great, and I also like that. There's a scene where Montgomery basically goes is crazy. Okay, I mean it's he kind of is crazy in the movie. Okay, I mean that's pretty much established throughout the first act of the movie. He's crazy, like how he just kills those defenseless animals because he likes the little chaos. Yeah, like he kills those animals. It makes no sense. He kills those animals just to like because he could. And that's what Dr. Moreau, when he shames him, like he goes, "You fool!" Like because they're not supposed to eat animals. Like it's supposed to be a vegan because like. And I just liked how Moreau, like Montgomery, did that. He did that. I kind of like he started the Brett domino effect, where he basically started this domino effect in a way where, and I do like how like he wants to, after like Marua dies, he just goes nuts and starts speaking like Marlon Brando, like for no reason, just
He
starts he
dresses up
dresses.
like him too, which was not something I was prepared for. Like in the white face and the white robe, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, you know, Val Kilmer is a good actor. Like I like Top Gun Maverick in his limited role and capacity because of his health. He was great. I think he's super underrated in Batman Forever, but here he just was not trying. Like you could just tell that he was like, I'm getting paid. I'm here. I might as well just not care. And he doesn't. He just doesn't.
I mean, there are some scenes I feel like too is great. There are some scenes where I feel like because he's playing it like the villain, like he's playing it like the villain role. Which in the book the character is just more of a lackey. Monroe, there is no, but like in this one, Montgomery's more of like the human antagonist to these characters. Like and I do like like how like the cat girl that's played by the girl from The Craft. She's literally like a terrified of Montgomery because she's sitting there literally just talking to him, and all of a sudden he's just sitting there watching them like on the deck, just sitting there, like no, just sneaks up there, just sits there, and he's eating a flower, and she just runs away, and he said she's a shy one. He goes, yeah, she's a pussycat, and then just walks away like. He's literally being direct with him, but I thought that was funny. And I also like how at the end he's just sitting there, like in his death scene, he's just sitting there bringing like treats to the dogs, like trying to be God, like my children, like just goes nuts, just ate batshit crazy, and it just starts like being a God complex. And he goes, and then like you got the guy who plays Jango Fett, and just comes up to him and goes,
Tamara Morrison.
Warren Morrison. He goes up to him and he tells him, I really want to go to doggy heaven, okay? And then he sends him to hell right then and there. He's okay. It tells him.
Really, honestly, us like talking about this is honestly more interesting than this movie itself. I don't want to talk about it any longer than I have to. I don't have the heart to give this movie a horrid grade because honestly, it's honestly feels like it's not even worth it. I mean, to quote Miracle Max from Princess Bride, I've seen worse. Like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is worse than this. Like
What about
frickin'
that Mousetrap movie? The Mickey Mouse movie horror film Mousetrap.
haven't seen it, but I imagine that is worse than this. There's clearly like some level of effort to try and will this into existence, but I mean,
I mean,
honestly,
really, Val Kilmer himself said that this was like he tried, and everybody tried to make this movie, but it was you had the studio like New Line that was like did have not have faith in this project, and then you had another thing is Marlon Brando's just like literally just like eh, doesn't care, and then like and like Marlon Brando should have been the leader of this project, going yeah, let's get it done, and I feel like with a different actor like Hopkins or Christopher Lee or so on to that effect, it probably would have like had a more different response to the project. But I feel like Brando was just like, I don't give a shit. This is probably my last role, and then just like, no,
well,
which it sucks.
it was one of his last, so he was close. But have you seen Island of Dr. Moreau? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to
Odds are
read.
you have not. The odds.
Let us
I'm
know.
willing to bet you haven't.
Let us know what you have to say if you are one of like the five people that have seen it besides us. But
There's also a documentary called about the island of Dr. Monroe. You can watch that too. It tells you the whole entire troubled production.
honestly, this movie, like a movie about the making of this movie sounds a whole lot better than the movie itself. But that's a story for a whole nother time. But Collins is going to be joining me again very soon as we talk about a couple more late 90s joints, starting off with The Craft. So stay tuned for that.